Hello, my name is Marcel.
And I'm Ashley.
Today we will be discussing diversity in Australian society through Play School.
Like 80% of Australian children under the age of 6, we grew up watching Play School. I'm 8 years older than Marcel, but we both had a very similar experience watching this progressive, influential children's program.
Play School exposes children to concepts such as gender, equality, race, culture, inclusion, same-sex parents, and many more. Today we are going to focus on how these concepts help to shape children into being more open-minded, enlightened, to prepare them for the realities of modern diverse societies.
Young children are highly active learning machines. More so than adults, children are constantly learning and exploring and questioning what goes on around them and constantly building upon their understanding and views.
Throughout the 50 years of Play School, they endeavour to reflect the modern and diverse society Australia has to offer. As this show has been around for a long time, it has gone through 3 generations of children, actors and characters. My mum even watched it as a child, and as a result she had me watching it. This demonstrates a positive trend as to each generation becoming more accepting and inclusive than the previous.
The show was fun and taught children things in an interesting, easy to understand and positive way. Children didn't feel like they were learning, and so the learning was simple and often almost subliminal. The hosts didn't necessarily have to overtly state something. The children simply learned it was the case by watching them do it. They acted as role models for the children. A consistent theme I recall from my earliest memories of Play School were John and Benita playing together while taking turns to wash the dishes. So they weren't lecturing us on what we should or shouldn't do, they were simply showing us while happily doing something themselves, removing any negative attitudes or hesitancy the children may have around the task.
However, a memory from my Play School days was George and Noni creating a dinosaur. To me this was great, as it was made out of objects I had around my house and I knew that I could go and grab these items and follow along.
An ongoing thread throughout those memories is an equal depiction of both men and women. This contrasts with other similarly picked shows like The Wiggles, where, with the exception of the dinosaur, the cast was predominantly male. Though other programs are changing to include a more equal gender representation, Play School has done so right since the very beginning. Almost every episode included as their hosts a male and a female, usually working together or playing together. An important aspect of this depiction of them was that the roles they performed were entirely gender neutral. Both males and females shared tasks or took it in turns helping each other in a respectful, equal relationship. Tasks were shown to be equally acceptable for males and females, and a man was just as likely portrayed washing the dishes as a woman was mowing the lawn. This both reflects and shapes perceptions of gender roles for children and future society as a whole.
Play School seeks to challenge the traditional aims of children, with the girls wishing to grow up as princesses and nurses, and the boys wanting to grow up as police officers and army men. Play School aims to show children that they are free to pursue any goal they want to, and that they are not limited by their gender, both at home or in the workforce. This means that in both the domestic sphere and the occupational sphere, the children are winding their potential. It is not a matter of breaking down the stereotypes that these children have learnt, as ideally these children haven't learnt those negative values. It is more a matter of forming positive values right from the beginning.
Teaching by example is particularly important with something like Play School, as they act as role models. The hosts are not simply another group of people the children see on TV, rather they're like friends, teachers, or carers for the children, and based on the television viewing statistics, they're people the children spend a lot of time with. I remember seeing a later episode with a newer, unfamiliar cast that showed a large, muscular Maori male singing and playing with a doll in whatever scenario he was portraying. This is a far cry from the exposure children would get of Maoris if the only time they saw them was with their parents watching the start of a rugby game where the All Blacks size off against their opponents doing the haka.
Whereas when I was a child, I remember one of the male cast members baking a cake, and I thought this was strange, as I've only ever seen my mum cooking. This opened up the fact that cooking isn't just for women, but men also. This shows children that in Play School there are no specific gender roles and that they are equally split.
The representation of races has changed over the years to reflect the increased value of a diverse society. Back when I was watching the show in the early 90s, the main non-white cast member was Trish, a black woman. The modern cast is considerably more diverse, featuring Polynesians, Aborigines, Africans, Asians, and more. This works to be more inclusive for multiracial children, as they, and their parents, are less likely to view Play School as just a show for white middle-class children. Further, while in my day guests were sometimes on the show, like Aborigines, discussing Aboriginal culture, these days the core cast includes Aborigines, and their race is not necessarily the focal point. This helps to draw attention away from labels, forming stereotypes based on racial characteristics, and reinforces the idea that we're all just people, with differences but fundamentally the same.
However, in my day, I remember Play School introducing the character Mika, the first non-white character on the show. This was the foundation of multi-race characters in Play School, as they later brought in Kim and Lisa, who were Vietnamese, and Dan, who was a brown-skinned doll. This allowed children to be exposed to the fact that Australia was becoming a more multicultural society. Play School directly related culture throughout their window segments and their presenters. They did this through showing a Muslim child shopping for a new hijab. This didn't come without backlash from the parents complaining about the mentioning of the Muslim culture and the garment they wore, as they believed it was a symbol of female oppression. This, however, didn't stop Play School from airing the more content like this. This example just shows how much Play School is reflecting the society around us in a positive way.
However, as previously mentioned, since 80% of children under the age of 6 watch the program weekly, it shows that the vast majority of parents still endorse the progressive attitudes depicted on the program and the positive impact this will have on their children's development. It's more than just a program to sit the kids down in front of to entertain them while the parents go about their daily chores. Rather, it's a tool to complement and support what they may also be learning from their parents or at kindergarten. Certainly, my kindergarten was entirely Caucasian, so I didn't have any daily interactions with other races except on things like Play School. Thus, it provided me with an early opportunity to explore other cultures that I wouldn't otherwise have had. This reflects not only the changing culture of Australians, for example, the increased number of Muslims in Australian society, but also the increased importance of accepting others in a post-9/11 society. These attitudes are often in contrast with other things you'd see on TV, for example, anti-Islamic and occasionally extreme right-wing xenophobic attitudes. These attitudes are frequently expressed.
Actually, the fact that Play School is on TV rather than another format also further increases its role within diversity. Television is easily accessible, and so people in remote, rural locations, people from lower socioeconomic groups, people from backgrounds that don't speak any English and are struggling to find their place in Australian society can all easily watch Play School and benefit from what is being shown. Some episodes include an Auslan interpreter for the benefit of any deaf children watching the show.
Even the activities that they do in the program are largely based around the imagination, reading, singing, or the construction of things out of cheap household items. Recent studies have shown the importance of television for remote communities, in particular Indigenous Australians, where their access to education isn't as easy as for urban children, and they may be getting mixed messages about who should be viewed as a role model and whether or not they are accepted by society.
Play School is also great at teaching children through play-based learning. Play School taught me how to create arts and crafts through using objects around my house. At the time, I believed I was just making something fun that I could use, but never really saw it as learning.
Recent studies have shown just how important programs like Play School are for improving the perceptions of children. Younger generations who watched Play School as children grew up to be much more ethnically minded than older generations. When asked the question, should we do more to learn about the customs and heritage of different cultural groups in this country, 84.8% of the 18 to 29-year-old age group responded with a yes, whereas only 58.8% of the group aged 60 to 69 agreed.
Play School is great at teaching children positive social interactions. This is evident within Play School as children see how the presenters are interacting with each other and how they treat each other with respect no matter what background or religion they come from. And as these are influences that children look up to, they are more likely to imitate the behaviour and social interactions they see.
This shows Play School is both reflecting and leading the general social trend towards embracing a modern, ethnically diverse society. And then, because generations are growing up on Play School and in turn having children of their own and encouraging them to watch Play School, the feedback loop is complete and increasing. The VCAA itself acknowledges the role of television in assisting in a child's education, depending on what it is they're viewing. Yeah, you just had to do the conclusion. We had one paragraph to go.
No, you got rid of that bit.
Oh, I didn't?
This whole
Oh,
bit.
yeah, no, I got rid of that whole bit, because...
Oh, sorry, I didn't get rid of it on mine.
Oh, we were so close.
I'm so sorry.